Hi guys, welcome back to Art at Home with Miss Roxanne. We are going to be doing an advanced origami craft today that's going to involve paper folding and some drawing. So what we are going to be making today is a dragon's eye. So we're going to get started. For this project, you're going to want to have one single sheet of paper, just a regular piece of paper. And then for the drawing part, you can use any kind of drawing tools that you like. I've got a pencil, pen, colored pencils, markers. So I have lots of options for myself. You can draw with a combination of all of these, or you can pick just one and stick with it. So I'm going to push those things just a little bit out of my way, and we are going to get started on our origami. So just as we usually do for most origami projects, our first step is to turn this rectangle into a square. And that can be a little bit of a challenge, but we're going to give it a go. So we're going to take the bottom corner and we're going to fold the paper so that it lines up to the opposite side. And what that's going to do is going to leave me with a big triangle and a skinny rectangle up at the top. So once I have that all lined up, and you can see this bottom edge lines up perfectly with this right-hand side. So now I've got my big triangle, my skinny rectangle. I'm going to fold my skinny rectangle back and forth a few times so that I can remove it from the paper, and I'll be left with a square once I remove my skinny rectangle. So I'm going to press it really, really, really good. Flip that over. Press again, open it up, and now you can see that's a nice sharp crease. And I'm just going to do a little tiny tear at the top. If you have a pair of scissors, this is great to do with scissors, but I'm demonstrating it without scissors for anybody who doesn't happen to have a pair of scissors in their house. So I'm just applying pressure and slowly, slowly, slowly tearing off that extra rectangle, and we'll put that to the side. So now I'm going to open up my paper, and I've got my square. So our next step, you can see that we've got a crease going from corner to corner here. We're going to fold up across that crease so that we make a second crease. And we're going to press it really good. Especially at the beginning of any origami project, you want to press your creases really flat and tight, and that gives you a better fold as you go on, and it gives you a more neat, crisp origami project. So what we're going to do, you're going to hold it so that instead of being flat in front of you, it's at an angle in front of you, so that one point is pointing towards you and one point is pointing away from you. Now, you can see the crease lines in the middle there. So they intersect, they make an X, and they intersect right in the middle. So we're going to take the top corner and we're going to fold it down to the middle line. Again, pressing really flat. Now we're going to take the bottom corner and we're going to fold it up to the middle line. Take your time with that. As always with these videos, you can watch it through once just to see how it is, and then maybe play it a second time and try to follow along the second time. You could just jump straight to it and try to follow along from the beginning, but if you like a slower explanation, you can watch through once and then replay it and try to work through it yourself the second time. Okay, so now we've got our rectangle, or not a rectangle, we've got our square folded so that the top point and the bottom point meet in the middle. Now the next step, we're going to fold this bottom edge so that it also comes up to the middle. I'm going to move this way and fold the bottom edge. I reach around. So I'm going to fold that bottom edge so it meets in the middle. press it really good. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the top. I'm going to fold this top edge so that it comes down into the middle. I'm going to press that crease as well and just smooth the whole thing out. Now our next step, we're going to open the whole page back up. We were folding so that we would get all these nice lines. So we're going to open this back up, press it down so that it stays nice and flat in front of you and you can work with it pretty easily. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat, mind you. So mine lifts a little, but that's quite all right. And the reason why we wanted these lines is that this is going to show us, I want you to see the lines more clearly. There you go. You can see how it's covered in lines now. And that's going to be our guide for folding it into a dragon's eye. So we're going to get going on that by starting with the top point again. We're going to fold the top point so that it meets down to the first line. Before we start that, I'm going to count our lines up real quick. Okay, we're going to fold the top down. So at this folding line here that was already there, we're going to fold that down to the next line. And we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. At this folding line that was already here, we're going to fold that in to the second line. So now we've got this little shape. Because this is an advanced origami project, I'm going to go extra slow with it. So now that we've got this part folded, it's going to fold one more time. You can see that? You've got that little envelope sort of shape. And I'm going to push that flat. We did that to the top. We're doing exactly the same thing to the bottom. There it goes. Take your time with this. I'm going to leave it there for you to look at so that we're going extra slow with our advanced project. Okay, so now that you've had a chance to get to this part, we're going to begin adding in our drawing. So you can take whatever it is you want to work with for drawing. I'm going to start with a pencil, and we're going to draw a big circle in the center here. That's going to be our dragon's eye. So when I'm doing a fairly large circle, what I like to do, especially since I know I'm going to be coloring this one in, I'm going to make a T shape in the middle. And that's going to show me how big around my circle will be. So now, instead of just freehanding a circle, which of course you can do, you're welcome to freehand a circle. But this is how I use a little bit of technique and a little bit of patience to draw my circle. So now instead of just scribbling a big circle, I'm connecting these four parts. There we go. So I'm just going to real quick open that back up. And this is why I used my pencil, so I can erase. Because I do want to slightly change the look of my circle here. So we're going to try to get a good sized circle that fits in there. You could always grab a cup or a lid for something to trace if you like. Pause that video and just come right back to it. Now I'm just replacing my folds. I'm going to erase some of my extra marks. And I'm leaving this circle just as is for now, because at the end, when we have this all folded up into a dragon's eye, that's when I'm going to come back and really do my drawing. Okay, so we've got ends folded in, circle in the middle. Let me hold it up. So if you are at this step now, we're going to keep moving forward. The next step is to fold in one more time, just on the crease, on the fold that's already there. Take the top section, fold it into the middle. This is going to temporarily cover up that eye, but we'll be getting back to it. Now you're going to take the bottom section, do exactly the same thing, fold that in. And again, this is covering up the eye that we marked out just now, but we'll be coming back to it momentarily. So there we go, and press down. Here's my fun fact for you while we're working. Did you know that dragons are the mascot of Oak Hill School? So we are the Oak Hill School Dragons. But our poor dragon doesn't have a name. So first thing, when we get back to school, we gotta name that dragon. Dragon naming contest, first thing, straight away. Okay, so now you have this sort of envelope shape. Take a look from a couple different sides. This part is where the flaps meet on both ends. What we're gonna do is turn the whole thing over. So grab it, flip the whole thing over on its front. Now from here you can still see the middle fold. So what we're gonna do next is fold our ends into the middle. So I'm gonna take this point on the side here. Doesn't matter which side you start with because we're doing both sides, but I'm gonna fold so this side point comes to the middle crease. And I'm gonna press that really good. Same thing on this side. I'm taking this point on the side and folding it in to the middle. Let's get it perfectly lined up. There we go. We're really taking our time with this one and using extra patience. So now we took those outside pieces, we folded them in, and this is the shape you should have. You should have a rectangle that has two diamonds pointing into the center. So I'm going to pause there if you need a little bit of time to keep going. All right, we're getting very close to being done. The next step is a little bit tricky, but we can do it. So, I just need to get a little bit closer here so I can reach around the camera. We're going to take from the corner and we're going to fold so that there's basically a line from this point to this point. You see how that comes up? Just like that. I'm going to fold that in and then open it back out. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. So we're going to fold from this center to this center. So lift it and create a little fold line. And press it. Can we open that back out? We're going to do the same thing over here. I think I'm going to show you with a little straight edge. So I'm going to line up the center of this side and the center of the top. And I am actually going to draw a little line so that you can see it more clearly in the video. So I traced from the center right to the center top. You can see a line there. That's the line we're going to fold. Press it and open it back up. We're going to do exactly the same thing on this section too. I'm just going to turn it so you can see quite nicely. So a line from center of this side to center of this side, that's the line that we're folding. And we open it back up. So it's starting a little bit to take shape, right? Okay. So now we're going to bring those pieces together. This involves a little bit of gentle pushing. So we've got it shaped like this now, right? And we're going to turn it over. And we're going to start to open up the back side. As we open up this back side, well, really this is the front. We were working with the back. So here's the back. And you can kind of fold one under the other a little bit. You don't want them too tight though. So when you come to the front, we start to open up the eye. See how that opens? So once you've got that lid open, now you've got the shape of your dragon eye. And then in the back, it's not completely, it's not tucked in anywhere. So it's just sort of open in the back. It's a little bit of a loose fold at the very end, but it's a loose fold so that you can close and open the eyelid. If it were too tucked into each other, which you could kind of do, but if it were too tucked into each other, you wouldn't be able to still move the eye. So we're going to open the eyelid. And now's where we get to start being very creative and drawing our dragon eye. So I'm going to begin actually, instead of beginning with the inside, I'm going to begin with the outside. And I'm going to start to make some scales on my dragon eye. So I'm pushing those to the side, and I'm going to start with my black marker. You can choose any color that you want. So this is where you get to be totally creative. We got all the way through the tough origami part. Now we're gonna do just some creative imagining. So I've got my black marker and I'm gonna start to make some scales. I'm gonna start at the top and do a little scale shape. And for a scale, I just sort of make, not even really a half circle, just sort of a swoop over the side. And I make sure that my scales overlap each other nicely. When we're making our dragon here, we can think about the colors and the scales that you might see on a lizard, the way that you see a dinosaur drawn, or just use your imagination. Come up with however you want. That is the nice thing about fantasy creatures, is that there's no wrong answer. You make that dragon look however you want it to look. So when I finish with my scales that I'm using marker for, I'm going to color them in as well. And I might switch and use colored pencil so that the outline from the marker shows up really strong. And I'm going to go back in with that and just tidy up some of these lines, really, really darken them. You can do it however you like. I like a really defined dragon's eye. That's the general look I'm going for with my dragon here. There we go. I like that. So I've got the top lid all done, and I'm going to do the bottom lid as well. So I'm going to remember when I do the bottom lid that my scales should start at the bottom and go up, because that is how a lizard's eye looks. All the scales face inward. They don't just go top to bottom. I'm going to make the scales a little bit bigger underneath the eye. The top of the eyelid I did pretty small scales. The bottom one, I'm going to do bigger scales. And all those scales face into the center of the eye. There we go. So we've got scales, and it opens, eye. And I'm going to take my marker, and I'm going to trace around the part of the circle that shows. And now here's where you get to make a decision. So we've got the center of the eye here, that's called the iris. And I'm going to put the pupil inside the iris. So we've got two choices to make. One is, do I want my pupil right in the center so the dragon is looking directly out? Or do I want to move my pupil off to the side so the dragon is focused elsewhere? I think I'm going to have my pupil directly in the center. So all you do for that is make another little circle right in the center of that eye. So another little circle right in the center. Now you can start to see this dragon beginning to take shape really. And it opens up. Now our next choice is, do you want to leave this outside here, the eyeball, do you want to leave it white as it would generally appear on a person? Or do you want to color it in black so that it gives a more bold shaded effect? I'm going to color it in black just to show you what that would look like. So as you can see, this is how it would be if you left the eyeball, sometimes called the whites of the eye, if you just left them white. And I'm going to show you what it would look like if you were to color it in with your black. Basically, it would just give a more shaded, darkened look to the eye, and it would make the color that you put into the iris later look more bold, more intense. So it just depends on the look that you're going for. So here we go. I'm coloring in just those little triangle points at the end. Trying not to color on the lid, just getting that inside end point there. Being super duper careful with my line work, making sure I don't go into that circle. And we're going to turn it around, do the same thing to this little end point. Doing my very best not to color inside the circle and also not to color on the eyelid. And we'll open that up again. We have a special cameo visit from Merlin. Bye-bye, Merlin. Thank you. All right, so now we've got sleeping dragon, waking dragon. So we're moving on to our next steps. You can continue to use markers. If you had started using markers, you could continue to use colored pencils if you had started using colored pencils, or you could switch, which is exactly what I think I'm going to do. So I've got my lovely colored pencils here, and I'm going to do some warm colors on the inside. Warm colors would be red, orange, yellow. And I'm going to do 2 shades of green on the outside. So I've got a light green and a dark green for the outside. You can use any colors you want. But this is how I imagine my dragon to be. So I'm going to go in to the inside of the eye here. And to give some good detail to the colored part of the eye, which is called the iris, what I'm going to do is color in the direction starting from the center out to the end. So I'm making some lines here. I would call these striations. Making some striations in my little dragon eye. Oh, Merlin, you want to be the star of the show. Out. There we go. So this is how I'm going to give my eye a really good look. I'm also going to come back in with my eraser, and I'm going to erase my pencil marks from earlier. Those were just to mark the general shape of the eye. And I don't need them now, and I don't want them distracting from my nice colors. There we go. All right, back to it with my red lines. Before we get too into it, I'm going to show you a little trick for giving some extra character to your eye here. So out in the iris, we're going to draw a little square that has curvy sides. And this little curvy sided square is going to stay white. And so when we color it all in, that's going to look like a little glint of light on the eye, a little reflection of light on the surface of the eye. So all around that, I want to get some red, but no red inside that little square. And I'm going to go in heavy with my red here too. This is a long project, but it's well worth it. At the end you get a very cool dragon's eye. There we go. So I'm very nearly satisfied with how much red I've got inside this eye, and I'm gonna switch over now to adding in my orange. So putting my red aside, gonna get my orange. Let's start to add a little bit of orange in, remembering to stay out of that little box that we made. Filling in quite a bit more with my orange now. And I'm continuing in the same direction by moving from the center of the eye out to the side. I'm not just going side to side or just going around in a circle. That's the big difference in making your eye just taking the look of your eye up the next level. Is not coloring in just a circle shape and not just going side to side or just up and down. So beginning from that center point, moving out to the side. So it's beginning to take shape. I've got my red and my orange. I'm going to switch to my yellow now. So I'm using red, orange, and yellow. And now I'm going to fill in with yellow all the places that are still white. But I'm going to remember to stay out of that little box that we made. I'm actually going to bring my red back and go over some of the red a little more strongly. Because once the yellow gets in there, a little bit of the red softens up more than I would like it to. If you like a softer look, go ahead and go for it. This is a dragon, and I'm giving it a dragony look. Now I'm ready to take my yellow and come back in, filling in all those little parts that are still white, except for that box that we're going to remember to keep white. So my dragon has some nice fiery eyes. And we open it up, and I stay away from that little box. I'm going to color near it, but absolutely not in it. And if you've done this before, you might be thinking, wow, that box has way too defined and rigid a line around it. We're going to come back to that, and we're going to blend that line a little bit better. Even though I'm using my yellow to fill in all these spaces, I'm doing exactly the same thing I did before, where I'm coloring from the center out to the edge. I'm not just going up and down or side to side or drawing in a circle. I'm going from the center out to the edge. And that's why I have to turn my paper so often, so that I can stay facing the same orientation. Okay, so dragon eye closed. Dragon eye open. I'm going to come back in with my red, and I'm going to give a little more definition to the outer rim. And I'm going to do a little bit of blending around this line. So the way that I'm blending is I'm just drawing really near to that box, filling in with a bit more color, but making sure not to go into it. Making sure of the color all the way around. Let me turn it so that you can see properly. So making sure the color all the way around matches that red. So I'm even going back over some of my orange, some of my yellow to blend it together. And now you see that the box stands out, the white box stands out clearly, but the red outline around it is more subtle. Now I'm going back in to some of the parts that I want a little bit more of an intense red. Open it up. Get that really, really intense red. Okay, so now I've got the inside of my eye finished. And I'm going to go to the eyelid. So, the reason that I marked this out in black marker, but now I'm switching over to colored pencil, is that I'm not going to try to color in each individual eyelid. I'm going to start at the center with my lighter green, and I'm going to work towards my darker green. And this is a time when you can just color straight across. So we gave a lot of focus and a lot of detail to the center of the eye, to the iris, the eyeball, the pupil. Now when we get to the eyelids, all that detail work is in the marker line, and we can color straight over that marker line with colored pencil. And as I get to the top, I'm going to go a little bit lighter with this green, because that's where I'm going to apply the dark green. And if you don't have colored pencils, if what you have is markers, that's quite all right. You can do this with markers as well. So now I've got my dark green, and I'm going to get the top here. I do want to make sure that we fill in nicely so that we don't have any gaps in the color, we don't have any white spots. Starting to look pretty good. Same at the bottom. I'm going to get some dark green at the bottom here. And I'm going pretty quickly side to side, but you can absolutely take your time with this. The more time you take with it, the better your result will be. Back to my light green for that center, where it gets closer. If I've got 2 shades of green here, might as well use them. I actually want to boost the tone of the green on the top lid too. So I'm pressing just a little bit more firmly. You want to be careful with that because of course you don't want to rip the page, but you can give it a little bit of pressure. It'll hold up. Here we go, there's that lime green instead of the dark green. And back in with my dark green to really darken up those outside areas. And that's it. I hope you gave it a try. I hope that your dragon eye came out really great. And I hope to see you all back in our art sessions real soon. So there we go. Pop it open. Closed dragon eye. Open dragon eye. That's it. So I'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe and stay creative. Bye-bye.